There is a particular type of house that everyone instantly recognises, and you've probably seen it in suburbs all across the country. Yet when asked what type of architectural style it is, most people would struggle. In this video, I'll be exploring the suburban traditional home, its history, its exterior, as well as interior features, as well as the legacy of the architectural style that everyone knows but no one can name. And don't forget to stick around to the end in order to test your knowledge. The confusion starts with the word traditional itself, because it may sound like a proper architectural style, but it isn't one in the same way that Georgian or Colonial revival or Tudor revival are. These styles have clear historical origins and rules. Traditional doesn't. It's a catch-all term that tells us more what a house isn't, i.e. it's not modern and it's not contemporary, more than what it is. The version of the traditional home that most people picture today takes shape in the late 1980s and 1990s during a period of major suburban expansion. These homes weren't trying to revive a single historic style. Instead, they borrowed selectively from many, including the Colonial revival, the Georgian, the Federal, and even the neoclassical, blending them into something familiar, established, and broadly appealing without being historically strict. Complicating things further, traditional is also regional, and what's considered traditional in the northeast is very different than what's considered traditional in the southwest, because style adapts to local history, materials, and taste. And in that sense, traditional isn't one look at all, but whatever is considered normal and rooted in a particular place. All that said, by the 1990s, a more unified suburban expression of the traditional home began to dominate across much of the country. It isn't a formally recognised architectural style, but it is the version most people think of with traditional, and it's the one I'll be focusing on in this video. One important thing I want to quickly clarify before we start looking at the exterior features is that unlike all the other architectural styles I've covered up to this point, traditional homes aren't defined by strict rules. So some traditionals lean more Colonial, Georgian, Federal, some lean more neoclassical, and all of the above is allowed. So just remember that as we're looking at these exterior features, which are more kind of prominent features that come up a lot rather than defining features. So one of the first things you may notice on a traditional is the use of multiple front-facing gables. These gables aren't structural so much as visual, and they break up what would otherwise be quite a kind of boxy square front, adding rhythm and interest to the facade. And they also help larger homes feel more articulated. In some traditionals, this is taken a step further with false dormers that suggest additional attic or third-storey space, but aren't actually accessible anywhere on the inside. They exist purely for appearance, borrowing the language of older homes where dormers signalled usable upper levels. And that same visual logic carries through to the overall massing and symmetry of the house, because most suburban traditionals are built around a straightforward rectangular form with projecting kind of wings or bump outs that add depth and variation to the facade. Even when the house isn't perfectly symmetrical, it's carefully balanced. Windows align, the front gables kind of balance each other out, and the whole elevation feels very composed. The overall effect is orderly and intentional, because the goal here isn't drama and experimentation, but stability and familiarity. Windows are another key part of how this style signals traditional. Most suburban traditional homes use double-hung windows, often with divided grids, and these window patterns are borrowed from much older architectural traditions which were kind of governed and dictated by the construction methods of the time. But here, they're all about appearance. In many traditionals, there was also a larger or more decorative window centred above the front door. This was typically either a Palladian or a large arched window, and this acts as a visual anchor for the facade, reinforcing symmetry and signalling formality at the entrance. Talking of the front entrance, this is where traditionals tend to concentrate their sense of formality. So even when the rest of the house is fairly restrained, the entrance is always clearly defined and emphasised. So we're talking pediments, porticos, columns, pilasters, classical detailing. And it's not designed to be grand or dramatic, but to signal a sense of arrival and to give the home a feeling of order and importance without being imposing. Materials also play a big role in how these homes communicate tradition, and it's very common to see brick used predominantly on the front facade while being paired with siding on the rear and the sides. So brick carries strong associations with permanence and quality, even if it's only used selectively. And I think what's interesting is this is the first style I've profiled where you see as a mainstream a different building material used on the front as you do on the rest of the house. So traditional homes aren't about historic construction methods so much as visual reassurance. The house looks very solid, established and well made, and that's exactly the effect the style is aiming for. And once you step inside, that logic continues with the same familiarity, but shaped by the way people actually lived in the 1990s and designed to balance formality, comfort and everyday life. Inside a traditional home, the first thing you're usually met with is an impressive 2-story foyer designed to create a sense of arrival, just like the front door did on the exterior. Often paired with that large window that lets light flood into the entrance, it immediately kind of creates a sense, and we'll see this throughout the home, that some spaces are more important than others. Rooms here are clearly defined rather than being fully open, and ceiling height plays an important role. So public spaces like the foyer and the family room often are double height or really tall ceilings, maybe even vaulted ceilings, while secondary spaces and bedrooms tend to be more modest, reinforcing a sense of order and purpose throughout the floor plan. And again, we see that sense of hierarchy of spaces where some spaces are deemed more important than others, or certainly grander than others. Another hallmark of these homes is the open gallery or overlook, where an upper level hallway or balcony looks down onto both the foyer and the family room. This feature adds a ton of visual drama and a sense of volume without adding usable square footage, and was very characteristic of late 1980s and 1990s construction. Next up is the large eat-in kitchen, which is the true command centre of the home. These kitchens are designed for gathering, homework, casual meals and entertaining, often all at once. Many included a built-in desk called a mother's desk, used for managing household schedules, bill paying, paperwork. And don't forget, there's a couple of elements to this. First of all, it's a physical feature of how we lived before we all had phones, laptops and everything in the palm of our hand. And also imagine calling it a mother's desk these days and trying to get away with that. Throughout the interior, traditional detailing ties everything together. Crown moulding, baseboards and simple trim profiles are common, along with kind of chair rails and wainscoting in the more formal areas such as the dining room and the hallways. These details are decorative but restrained, reinforcing the sense that the home is meant to feel established and comfortable rather than trendy or experimental. The legacy of the suburban traditional home is in its remarkable staying power. While architectural trends come and go, these homes have remained consistently desirable, and that's because they were designed to appeal to the widest audience. Their layouts are flexible, their proportions are familiar, and their overall look rarely feels dated in the way more trend-driven styles can. Many of these homes now form the backbone of the suburban resale market across the country. Traditional homes also laid the groundwork for what we now call transitional and modern traditional design. Newer homes may simplify the detailing or open up the floor plan somewhat, but they still rely on the same core principles, those of balance, familiarity, and broad appeal. Ultimately, the reason this style never received a formal name is the same reason it endured so long. It wasn't trying to make a statement. It was designed to feel normal, familiar, comfortable and dependable, and in doing so it became the default language for the American suburban housing for an entire generation. Before we wrap up, let's put your knowledge to the test. So some of the images you're going to see are going to be traditional homes, some of them aren't, but which is which? Okay, so here is your first image. I'll give you a couple of seconds. What do you think? Is this a traditional style home? Well, if you said no, I think you're correct. I would classify this as a neoclassical home. It's got the full-on triangular pediment at the top. It's got the full height columns, which when they are double height, they're called colossal columns. It's got the balcony, mid-level. This has just got so much neoclassical detailing. I would say that this is a full-on neoclassical home. Next up, what about this one? Give you a few seconds to have a think. Well, I would say, yes, this is very much a traditional. You can see the kind of core boxy square that it's got with the bump out bit, which is the garage. It's got the kind of gentle neoclassical theming around the front door. So you can see that the main entrance is definitely a feature. It's got the front facing gables. The rest of it is pretty symmetrical and restrained. So I would say, yes, this is a perfect example of a traditional. So here is your final exterior image. What do you think? So I would say, yes, this is very much a traditional home. It's got the large arched window above the front door. Look at the front door itself. Again, it's got those neoclassical themes to it. The main body of the house is pretty chunky and square, like the main rectangular core, and it's got the jut outs. And even look at the windows. It's got the double hung or the double sash windows with the grids. So yeah, this is a perfect example of a traditional home. Here is your first interior image. So what do you think? Is this interior a traditional home? Well, I would say no, because it's got the single story going throughout. To me, this looks like a colonial revival home. So there's nothing really that screams traditional about this interior. And here is your final image. So what do you think? Is this the interior of a traditional home? Yes, absolutely. Look at that gallery. Look at the overlook at the top. You can just about see that there's the large window above the front door. You can see the double height in the main area as well as the foyer, but you can also kind of see the single story in the office behind. So yeah, absolutely. This is another perfect example of a traditional. Well, I hope you aced the quiz. Thanks for joining me today on this deep dive into the traditional home. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you here next week for more Homes Explained.